chandeliers and French champagne. 200 people dressed in their finest celebrated the engagement of Victoria Ashford to the heir of the most powerful hotel dynasty on the East Coast. But nobody was celebrating Camilla Reyes. She'd arrived as a last-minute guest, a favor owed to her late father. Borrowed black dress, second-hand shoes, hair pinned up with cheap bobby pins that threatened to come loose any moment. She'd stuck to the walls all evening, invisible among the marble and gold. Until Victoria saw her. "What the hell are you doing here?" Victoria's voice cut through nearby conversations like a knife. Her white silk gown cost more than 6 months of Camilla's salary. Her smile was pure venom. "Who invited you?" Camilla felt every eye turn toward her. Heat crept up her neck, staining her cheeks humiliating red. "I. Your mother sent me an invitation. My father worked for your family for 20 years before he killed himself over gambling debts. Yes, we all know." Victoria stepped closer, her expensive perfume suffocating in the space between them. "How pathetic. And now here you are, wearing a dress you probably bought at a thrift store, drinking champagne you couldn't afford in 10 years. The laughter started. Soft at first, then louder. Victoria's fiancé, Marcus Ashford III, joined her side with a cruel smile. "Darling, I think there's been a mistake." His voice was soft, almost kind, which made the words cut deeper. "This celebration is for people of a certain caliber. I'm sure you understand." I just... Camilla clutched her small purse against her chest, feeling the cheap stitching under her fingers. "I just came to pay my respects. I'll leave right now." "Oh no." Victoria grabbed her arm hard enough to leave marks. "You're not going to slink away quietly and make it look like we were the rude ones. If you're going to be here, embarrassing us all with your presence, at least do it properly." What happened next became a blurred smear in Camilla's memory. Victoria dragged her to the center of the ballroom, where the band had stopped playing. 200 pairs of eyes stared. "This," Victoria announced, her voice amplified by the room's perfect acoustics, "is Camilla Reyes. Her father worked for my family for 2 decades before he gambled away all their money on horse racing and hanged himself in their garage. Now she cleans houses for money, and apparently thinks that qualifies her to attend high society events." The silence was deafening. Camilla could hear her own breathing, shallow and fast. Her hands trembled. "Out." Marcus pointed toward the double doors. "Before we call security." And then Camilla did something that surprised even herself. She laughed. It wasn't a hysterical or broken laugh. It was genuine, dark, born from something deep in her chest that had been dying slowly for years. "You're right," she said, her voice oddly calm. "I don't belong here. Because you people are the most miserable, empty, pathetic people I've ever met." She turned to Victoria. "And you, especially, are a cruel bitch who's probably never worked a day in her life." The collective gasp was almost comical. "How dare you?" Victoria started, but Camilla was already walking toward the doors. "Fuck you all," she threw over her shoulder. "Fuck your shallow parties and your dirty money and your fake smiles. I hope you choke on champagne." She pushed through the doors into the marble lobby, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. Behind her, she could hear the scandal growing, voices rising in outraged shock. She didn't care. For the first time in years, she didn't care what they thought. She walked straight to the elevator, jabbing the button repeatedly with shaking fingers. The doors opened and she stepped inside, turning to press the ground floor button. And froze, because a man had just separated from the shadows near the ballroom entrance. Tall, probably mid-30s, wearing a black suit that likely cost more than Camilla's car. Dark hair slicked back, jaw that looked carved from granite, and eyes. God, his eyes were the color of aged whiskey, amber and dangerous in the dim light. He'd been watching. Through the entire humiliation, he'd been there, seeing. His gaze met hers across the lobby, and something passed between them. Recognition. A spark. Then he started walking toward her. Camilla frantically pressed the door close button, but the elevator moved with frustrating slowness. The man walked with the confidence of someone who'd never been refused anything in his life, his steps measured and deliberate. He reached the elevator just as the doors began to close. His hand shot out, stopping them with casual strength that made the motors whine in protest. "Wait," he said, and his voice was dark velvet over steel. "No." Camilla backed against the rear wall of the elevator. "I don't want pity or apologies or whatever you're. I wasn't going to offer either of those things." He stepped into the elevator and suddenly the space felt too small. "I was going to offer you a job." The doors closed behind him with a soft hiss. Camilla blinked. "What?" "A job." He pressed the basement button, not ground floor, and she didn't correct him. "My personal assistant quit this morning. I need an immediate replacement. Someone who's not afraid to tell powerful people to go fuck themselves seems perfectly qualified." I I don't know who you are." The smile that crossed his face was slow and dangerous. "Dante Moretti. And you're Camilla Reyes, 26. Works 3 jobs to pay off your father's debts. Lives in a 1-bedroom apartment on the south side, and just burned every bridge you had with this city's high society." Her blood went cold. "How do you know?" "I do my homework." The elevator arrived at the basement with a soft ding. "The question is, what are you going to do now? Go back to cleaning houses and waiting tables while Victoria Ashford tells everyone what happened tonight? Or take the job, earn more in a month than you would in a year, and let me handle the consequences?" Camilla stared at him, searching for the trick, the trap. But all she saw was opportunity. Dangerous, yes. Probably stupid. Definitely reckless. "What kind of consequences?" Dante's smile widened. "The kind that make people like Victoria Ashford have nightmares." The elevator doors started closing again. This was her last chance to get out, to go back to her small, safe life. Instead, Camilla heard her own voice say, "When do I start?" "Right now." Dante extended his hand. "Welcome to your new life, Camilla Reyes. I promise it won't be boring." She took his hand, and the world tilted on its axis. Upstairs in the ballroom, Victoria Ashford was telling everyone how she'd thrown out the trash, how Camilla Reyes had been discarded like she meant nothing. But down in the underground parking garage, Camilla was climbing into a black Mercedes that cost more than her childhood home, sitting next to a man who made millionaires tremble when he spoke his name. She'd been thrown out like she meant nothing. Until the Mafia boss stood up and followed her. And now, everything was going to change. Dante Moretti's penthouse wasn't what Camilla had expected. Oh, it was luxurious, certainly. 30 floors above Manhattan, with floor-to-ceiling windows that turned the city into a sea of diamond lights. Italian marble floors, art that had probably been stolen from European museums, furniture that looked too perfect to actually sit on. But it was also empty. No personal photographs, no clutter, no signs anyone actually lived here. It was like a 5-star hotel. Beautiful, impersonal, cold. "Coffee?" Dante headed to a kitchen that was all stainless steel and black granite surfaces. "It's 11 at night." "Then I guess it's bad news that we need to work until 3. He pulled 2 cups from a cabinet. "Espresso, cappuccino, or the kind of coffee that tastes like gasoline but keeps you functional?" "The last one." Camilla set her purse on the counter, still not quite believing this was happening. "Mr. Moretti." "Dante." "Dante," she corrected, the name feeling strange on her tongue. "What exactly would I be doing as your personal assistant? Because I should tell you, I have 0 experience in whatever it is you do." He turned from the espresso machine, studying her with those unsettling amber eyes. What do you think I do? I think you're either extremely rich from legitimate business that you're too young to have built yourself, or you're involved in something that would make the FBI very interested in your tax returns. Dante laughed, genuine and surprised. And you took the job anyway? You offered it in an elevator after I committed social suicide in front of 200 people. My judgment was clearly impaired. Camilla crossed her arms. But I'm sober now, and I'd like to know what I'm walking into before I sign anything. Smart. He poured dark, viscous coffee into both cups. I run several businesses: import, export, primarily, art acquisition, real estate development, some venture capital investments. That all sounds very legal and boring. Most of it is. He handed her a cup. The parts that aren't. Let's say I facilitate transactions between parties who prefer not to meet directly. I broker deals that don't have conventional solutions. You're a fixer. I prefer independent consultant. His smile was sharp. But yes, people come to me when they need something that can't be obtained through legal means, or when they have something to sell that can't go through normal markets. Camilla took a sip of coffee. It tasted like battery acid and determination. And what would my role be in all this? Everything I do requires perfect organization, scheduling meetings that can't appear on any calendar, managing communications that can't be traced, handling cash transactions that can't go through banks, maintaining relationships with people who can't be publicly associated with me. Dante leaned against the counter. My last assistant was excellent at the job. Unfortunately, she was also sleeping with a federal prosecutor and selling information. You found out. I found out. Something cold flickered in his eyes. She's currently in witness protection, which is the only reason she's still breathing. The smart thing would be to set down the coffee, walk out, and never look back. This man was admitting to crimes, to having enough power that a federal witness needed protection from him. Everything about this screamed danger, but Camilla thought about Victoria's face, twisted with cruel pleasure as she'd humiliated her in front of everyone who mattered in this city. Thought about going back to her 3 jobs, to her tiny apartment, to a life where she was invisible and powerless. How much does it pay? Dante named a figure that made her choke on her coffee. That's insane. That's market rate for someone I can trust with my life. He set down his cup. And I need to be able to trust you, Camilla. Completely. Which means I need to know everything about you. Everything you're afraid of. Everything you want. Everything that could be used against you. Why would I tell you all that? Because I'm going to tell you the same about me. He moved closer, and she fought the urge to step back. Mutually assured destruction. We both have enough information to ruin each other, which means we both have incentive to stay loyal. That's a terrible foundation for a working relationship. It's the only kind that works in my world. His hand came up, and she tensed, but he just tucked a strand of hair that had come loose behind her ear. The gesture was surprisingly gentle. I watched you tonight. Watched you walk into that party in borrowed clothes, trying so hard to be invisible. Then I watched you burn it all down rather than leave quietly. Do you know how rare that kind of courage is? It wasn't courage, it was stupidity. No. His thumb traced her jawline, and heat followed the touch. Courage is doing the right thing even when it costs you everything. You knew what would happen when you told Victoria Ashford to go fuck herself. You did it anyway, because it needed to be said. Camilla's breath caught. You don't know anything about me. I know you've been working 80-hour weeks for 3 years to pay off debt that wasn't yours. I know you could have declared bankruptcy but chose to honor your father's obligations even though they're destroying you. I know you're loyal to a fault, brilliant despite never finishing college, and desperate enough to get in an elevator with a criminal you just met. He was too close. She could smell his cologne, something expensive and dark. could see the faint scar that ran through his left eyebrow, probably from a fight he'd won. "What do you want from me, really?" Her voice came out softer than intended. "I want someone I can trust in a world where trust doesn't exist. Someone who has something to lose, so I know they won't sell me out. Someone smart enough to anticipate problems and brave enough to tell me when I'm wrong." His eyes held hers. "And I want to watch Victoria Ashford's face when she realizes the girl she threw away is now untouchable." There it was. The real offer underneath the job. The salary. The danger. Revenge. "I'm not doing this just to get back at her." "Of course not. You're doing it because you need the money, because you're tired of being invisible, because you want power over your own life for the first time ever." Dante stepped back, giving her space to breathe. "The revenge is just a bonus." Camilla drained her coffee, feeling the caffeine hit her system like liquid courage. "I want 3 months' salary up front, in case this goes sideways and I need to disappear." "Done. And I want it in writing that if you get arrested, I get full immunity. I'm not going to prison for you." "Fair. I'll have my lawyer draw up a contract tomorrow. And I want to know exactly what you're involved in. Not vague descriptions, actual details. I'm not working blind." Dante's smile was approving. "You're better at negotiation than I expected. Anything else?" "Yes." She set down her cup with a sharp click. "I want to be there when Victoria finds out I work for you. I want to see her face." "Now you're speaking my language." He extended his hand. "Do we have a deal, Camila Reyes?" She looked at his hand, at this dangerous man offering her a dangerous job that would change everything about her life. One more step, and there'd be no going back. Camilla shook his hand. "We have a deal." "Excellent." Dante pulled out his phone. "Marco will be here in 20 minutes to take you home. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Be at this address." He showed her a location in Tribeca. "Wear something professional but not expensive. I need you to look like you belong in boardrooms but aren't trying too hard." "I don't own anything like that." "There'll be a shopping allowance in your first payment. Consider it part of the uniform." He walked her to the door. "And Camilla? What happened tonight at the grandeur? That's the last time anyone makes you feel small. From now on, you're under my protection. Which means if someone fucks with you, they fuck with me." The way he said it, casual and absolute, sent a shiver down her spine. Is that supposed to make me feel safe or terrified? Both. He opened the door. "Welcome to the family business, Camilla. Try not to die." She stepped into the hallway, her head spinning. Behind her, the door clicked shut, and she was alone with the magnitude of what she'd just agreed to. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Wire transfer complete. Check your account. DM." With shaking fingers, Camilla opened her banking app. The number that appeared made her knees weak. 3 months' salary, just like she'd demanded. More money than she'd ever seen in her life, sitting in her account like it was nothing. The elevator arrived. She stepped inside, caught her reflection in the mirrored walls. Same borrowed dress, same cheap shoes, same Camilla who'd been humiliated 3 hours ago. But her eyes were different. Harder. Hungrier. She'd been thrown out like garbage tonight. Tomorrow, she'd start learning how to throw back. The address Dante had given her led to a nondescript building in Tribeca that looked like every other converted warehouse on the block. Camilla stood outside at 8:55 a.m., wearing a charcoal pencil skirt and cream blouse she'd bought at 7 a.m. from the only store open that early. The clothes weren't expensive, but they fit well, and she looked professional, competent, not like someone who'd been publicly humiliated less than 12 hours ago. The lobby was all exposed brick and industrial chic, but the security was anything but artistic. 2 men in dark suits flanked the elevator, both with the kind of build that suggested violence was a professional skill. They gave her a synchronized once-over, that made her feel like she was being scanned for weapons. Camilla Reyes, she said, trying to sound confident. I have an appointment with Mr. Moretti. The one on the left, shaved head, scar across his knuckles, pulled out a phone. She's here. A pause. Understood. He gestured to the elevator. 32nd floor. He's expecting you. The elevator was smooth and silent, numbers climbing steadily. Camilla caught her reflection in the polished doors. Her hair was pulled back in a professional bun, minimal makeup, small gold earrings her mother had given her before she died. She looked calm. She wasn't calm. The doors opened directly into a sprawling office space that managed to be both industrial and luxurious. Exposed ductwork and concrete pillars contrasted with leather furniture and art that definitely hadn't come from home goods. Banks of computers lined one wall, their screens showing what looked like stock tickers, security feeds, and data streams Camilla couldn't identify. 3 people worked at various stations. A young Asian woman with purple-streaked hair typing at inhuman speed, a middle-aged black man on the phone speaking rapid Italian, and someone who might have been male or female hunched over blueprints spread across a drafting table. None of them looked up when she entered. You're early. Dante's voice came from behind her, and she spun. He'd emerged from a glass-walled office she hadn't noticed, wearing dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. No tie, top button undone. He looked more relaxed than last night, but no less dangerous. Good. I hate people who waste my time. I caught the early train. From the south side. 45-minute commute. He gestured for her to follow him. We'll get you an apartment closer. Can't have you exhausted before the day starts. I didn't agree to move. You agreed to be available when I need you. That means living within 10 minutes of this office. He led her through the open space, past the workers who still didn't acknowledge their presence. You'll have your own place, separate from mine, but close. They entered his office, and the door closed with an electronic hiss that suggested soundproofing. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Hudson River, the morning sun turning the water into hammered bronze. Sit. Dante indicated a leather chair across from his desk, which was clean except for a laptop and a single file folder. Camilla sat, crossing her ankles the way her mother had taught her. Professional posture, confident but not aggressive. Dante opened the folder and slid it across the desk. Standard NDA. Read it carefully. She did. The document was surprisingly clear. She agreed not to discuss anything she saw, heard, or learned while working for Dante Moretti or his associates. Violation would result in immediate termination and legal action up to and including civil suits for damages. What it didn't say, but was clearly implied, violate this agreement, and you'll regret it in ways that can't be written in legal language. There's no end date, Camilla observed. This NDA is binding forever. Some secrets don't have expiration dates. What if I quit? Then you quit. The NDA still applies. Dante leaned back in his chair. I'm not going to trap you in this job, Camilla. If you want out, you can walk away anytime. But you take nothing with you except what you came in with. Your integrity and your discretion. She read it again, looking for loopholes or escape clauses. Found none. This was absolute. If I sign this and you ask me to do something illegal, I'm complicit. Yes. If you get caught, I go down too. Potentially, yes. He didn't sugarcoat it. Though, as I said, there's a clause that gives you immunity in exchange for cooperation. My lawyer made sure of it. Why would you agree to that? It gives me incentive to sell you out. Because I don't plan on getting caught. His smile was sharp. And because I'm betting that your loyalty, once earned, is worth more than whatever the FBI could offer you. Camilla picked up the pen sitting next to the folder. Heavy, expensive, probably worth more than her weekly salary at the diner. You're very confident in your ability to earn my loyalty. I'm very confident in my understanding of human nature. Dante stood, moving to the windows. You've been scraping by your entire life, Camilla, working yourself to exhaustion to pay debts that weren't yours, honoring obligations that no one would fault you for abandoning. That kind of integrity doesn't just disappear when circumstances change. You don't know that. I do, actually. He turned to face her, backlit by the morning sun. Because people who would sell me out for a better deal don't storm out of high society parties after telling the hostess to go fuck herself. They smile, nod, and quietly resent the humiliation while looking for the next opportunity. He wasn't wrong. Camilla had burned her bridges spectacularly when any sane person would have slipped away quietly. She signed the NDA with quick, decisive strokes. Good. Dante returned to his desk, taking the document and sliding it into a drawer. Now, let's discuss what you're actually going to be doing. Luna. He gestured toward the purple-haired woman visible through the glass wall. Handles all technical infrastructure, encryption, secure communications, digital footprints, and anything involving computers. Marco, the middle-aged man, manages logistics, transportation, real estate, personnel coordination, and Alex, the person at the drafting table, is our acquisitions specialist. They find things that don't want to be found. What do you need me for then? I need someone who manages me. Dante pulled up a calendar on his laptop screen, spinning it to face her. Look at this. It was chaos. Color-coded blocks overlapping each other, some marked with cryptic abbreviations, others just initials. No clear pattern or organization. This is my schedule for the next month, Dante continued. Meetings with 7 different clients, 3 property acquisitions, 2 art deliveries, and a negotiation with someone who'll kill me if the deal goes wrong. Plus, all the legitimate business that keeps the FBI from looking too closely. Camilla studied the mess. How have you been managing this? Poorly. My last assistant had systems. Everything ran smoothly. Since she left, it's been. He gestured at the screen. This. You need someone to organize your chaos. I need someone to be my front-facing presence for things I can't attend personally. Someone to schedule meetings without revealing who's actually meeting. Someone close the what? Laptop. And I need someone who can think 3 steps ahead because in my world, being reactive gets you killed. The weight of it settled on Camilla's shoulders. This wasn't just an assistant job. He was asking her to be his proxy, his planner, his shield. Why me? She asked quietly. Why not hire someone with actual experience in whatever this is? Because people with experience in my world come with baggage, loyalties to other families, debts to other organizations, histories that create complications. Dante's eyes held hers. You're a blank slate. No connections to organized crime, no previous employers who'll come calling in favors. Just a smart woman who needs money and isn't afraid of taking risks. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement of my qualifications. Your qualifications are that you're smart enough to recognize an opportunity, desperate enough to take it, and brave enough to tell powerful people to fuck off when they deserve it. He smiled. Plus, you're about to be very motivated to prove Victoria Ashford wrong about you. There it was again. The revenge angle, dangled like bait. When do I start? You already have. Dante stood, and she did the same. Luna will set you up with encrypted communications. Marco will get you keys to your new apartment. Yes, it's already been arranged, non-negotiable. And Alex will brief you on current acquisitions in progress. What will you be doing? Teaching you how to stay alive in a world where mistakes are fatal. He came around the desk, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Rule 1. Trust no one completely, not even me. Always verify, always have a backup plan, always know where the exits are. Comforting. Rule 2. Never let anyone see you weak. The moment they sense vulnerability, they'll exploit it. Confidence isn't optional in this job. It's survival. I'm not exactly overflowing with confidence right now. Then fake it until it's real. His hand came up, and this time she didn't flinch when he adjusted the collar of her blouse. Rule 3. Loyalty flows both ways. I protect you, you protect me. Break that contract and there's nowhere in the world you can hide. But honor it, and I'll make sure you never have to bow to anyone again. Camilla's pulse was racing, but she kept her voice steady. Is there a rule 4? Yes. Dante's smile was dark and promising. Don't fall in love with your boss. It always ends badly. Heat flooded her cheeks. I don't think that'll be a problem. Good. He stepped back, the moment breaking. Because we have work to do, and I need your head in the game, not distracted by. He gestured vaguely between them. There's no distraction to worry about. If you say so. He moved toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Camilla? Tonight you'll attend your first client meeting with me. Wear something that says, wealthy but not trying too hard. Luna knows a boutique that can outfit you in an hour. Another shopping trip? Consider it continuing education in looking like you belong. Dante opened the door. Welcome to your first day. Try not to die before lunch. He left, and Camilla stood alone in his office, surrounded by luxury and danger in equal measure. Through the glass wall, she could see Luna approaching, purple hair bouncing with each step. The young woman entered without knocking, holding a tablet. So you're the new girl. Luna's accent was pure Brooklyn, her eyes sharp behind red-framed glasses. Fair warning, the last 3 assistants didn't make it past a month. 2 quit, 1 got arrested. You planning to beat those odds? I'm planning to try. Good answer. Luna handed her the tablet. This is your encrypted phone. Fingerprint and retinal scan activated. Self-destructs if anyone else tries to access it. All communication with Dante goes through here. Normal phones are for normal life. This is for our life. Our life. Like Camilla had just joined a family, or a cult. How long have you worked for him? Camilla asked. 3 years. Started as a hacker he hired to crack a security system. Stayed because the benefits are excellent and because… Luna's expression softened slightly. Because Dante keeps his word. He says he'll protect you. He means it. He says he'll pay you. Money appears like magic. He's dangerous as hell, but he's honest about it. That's supposed to make me feel better? Honey, in this world, honest criminals are saints compared to dishonest civilians. Luna started toward the door, then looked back. One more thing. That speech he gave about loyalty? He means every word. I've seen what happens to people who betray him. Don't be that person. I don't plan to be. Nobody plans to be. Luna smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It just happens when they think they've found a better deal. Spoiler alert, there's never a better deal than Dante Moretti. She left, and Camilla was alone again with her new encrypted phone and the reality of what she'd just walked into. Through the windows, Manhattan sprawled in all directions. Somewhere out there, Victoria Ashford was probably still telling the story of last night, laughing about the pathetic girl who'd been thrown out of the party. Camilla pulled up the calendar Luna had transferred to her new phone. Dante's chaos schedule stared back at her, a puzzle that needed solving. She'd spent 3 years working 3 jobs, juggling impossible schedules, making ends meet through sheer force of will. This was just another puzzle. Harder, more dangerous, with consequences that went beyond missed rent payments, but solvable. She opened a new document and started breaking down the color-coded mess into something manageable. Client meetings in red, property acquisitions in blue, art deliveries in green, legitimate business in yellow, personal appointments in purple. By the time Marco came to give her keys to her new apartment, she'd reorganized Dante's entire month into a logical flow that didn't have him in 3 places at once. By lunch, She'd identified 4 scheduling conflicts that would have caused serious problems and found solutions for all of them. By 3 p.m., when Dante called her into his office to review her work, she had a complete operational plan for the next 30 days, including backup options for every high-risk meeting. He studied her work in silence, scrolling through the reorganized calendar with increasing intensity. Finally, he looked up. How did you do this in 5 hours? You had a system before. I just reverse engineered it from the data patterns. Camilla stood beside his desk, pointing at the screen. Your color coding was consistent, which meant there was underlying logic. I identified the categories, separated conflicts, and created buffer time between high-stress appointments. Luna said the last assistant took 2 weeks to organize 1 month. The last assistant apparently wasn't very good at their job. Camilla met his eyes. I am. Dante's smile was slow and genuinely pleased. Yes, you are. He stood, coming around the desk. Tonight's meeting is at 9. Marco will pick you up at 8. Client's name is Konstantin Volkov. He's Russian, brutally direct, and will test you to see if you're weak. Don't let him. What's the meeting about? He wants to acquire a Fabergé egg that's currently in a private collection in Switzerland. I'm facilitating the transaction. Dante pulled a file from his desk drawer. This is everything you need to know about Constantine. Read it, memorize it, then destroy it. Never write anything down about clients. Camilla took the file. What's my role? Observe, learn. Don't speak unless spoken to. And if Constantine tries to intimidate you, and he will, remember Rule 2. Never let anyone see you weak. Exactly. Dante's hand landed on her shoulder, warm and solid. You're going to be fine, Camilla. Just remember, you've already survived the worst kind of humiliation. Anything Constantine throws at you will be minor in comparison. She thought about Victoria's cruel smile, about 200 people watching her be torn apart, about walking out with her head high despite the shame burning through her. You're right, she said quietly. After last night, I can survive anything. That's my girl. Dante squeezed her shoulder once, then released her. Now go shopping with Luna, and Camilla? Thank you. For what? For making sense of my chaos. His expression was genuinely warm. I can see why fate put you in that elevator last night. You're exactly what I needed. Camilla left his office with the file clutched against her chest, and her heart doing complicated things she wasn't ready to examine. Luna was waiting by the elevator, car keys in hand and a mischievous grin on her face. Ready to learn how to dress like money you don't have? Do I have a choice? Nope. Luna hit the elevator button. But trust me, after tonight, Victoria Ashford is going to choke on her champagne when she sees your new look. The elevator doors opened and Camilla stepped inside with Luna chattering about boutiques and designers and the art of looking expensive on someone else's dime. 24 hours ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was walking into a world where one wrong move could get her killed, working for a man who'd openly admitted to being a criminal and preparing to meet a Russian arms dealer over dinner. Her mother would have been horrified. But Camilla? For the first time in 3 years, she felt alive. The boutique Luna chose was in Soho, unmarked except for a discreet brass plaque that read, Madame Voss. No windows displayed merchandise, no signs advertising sales, just a black door with an intercom. Luna pressed the button. Dante sent us. The door buzzed open immediately. Inside was like stepping into another world, all velvet and crystal, with gowns displayed like art pieces under perfect lighting. A woman emerged from the back, probably 60, with silver hair in an immaculate chignon and a tape measure draped around her neck like jewelry. Ah, another one. Her accent was vaguely European, impossible to place. Let me see. Before Camilla could protest, Madame Voss was circling her like a predator, assessing with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Good bones, terrible posture, We'll fix that. Decent skin. Hair needs professional help but has potential. She stopped in front of Camilla, tilting her chin up with one finger. Client meeting or social event? Client meeting, Luna answered. High stakes. Russian. Tonight. Ah, Madame Voss released Camilla's chin. Volkov, I assume? The fact that she knew the client's name without being told should have been alarming. Instead, Camilla was starting to realize this was how Dante's world worked. Everyone knew everyone, and discretion was currency. He'll try to intimidate her, Madame Voss continued, already pulling garments from racks, which means she needs to look expensive but unapproachable, wealthy but not frivolous, intelligent but not academic. That's very specific, Camilla managed. Dressing for Dante's world is an art form, dear. The wrong choice can get you killed. Madame Voss thrust an armful of clothes at her. Fitting room. Now. The next hour was a whirlwind of fabric and criticism. Every outfit Camilla tried on was met with brutal assessment. Too soft, too cheap-looking, too obvious, too trying. Finally, Madame Voss nodded with satisfaction. This one. Camilla looked at herself in the three-way mirror. The dress was midnight blue, almost black, with long sleeves and a modest neckline that somehow managed to be elegant rather than prudish. It fit perfectly, the fabric moving like water when she walked. With it, Madame Voss had paired simple diamond studs and a watch that looked vintage but expensive. I look, Camilla searched for the word. Untouchable, Luna supplied with an approving grin. Like old money that doesn't need to prove anything. Exactly. Madame Voss adjusted the watch on Camilla's wrist. Volkov will see wealth, taste, and confidence. He'll assume you've been raised in this world. Use that assumption. I don't know how to act like old money. Then don't act at all. You're Dante's assistant, which means you're above Volkov's games. Madame Voss met her eyes in the mirror. Remember, you work for the man who brokers deals that shape this city. Volkov needs Dante more than Dante needs him. Never forget the power dynamic. Camilla nodded, trying to internalize the lesson. Luna paid with a black card that didn't have Camilla's name on it, and they left with the dress in a garment bag and shoes that cost more than Camilla's monthly rent. Madame Voss is intense, Camilla said once they were back on the street. She's also the only person Dante trusts to outfit his people correctly. Every employee gets their wardrobe from her. Luna checked her phone. Okay, we have 2 hours before Marco picks you up. Time for hair and makeup. Is that really necessary? Honey, everything about tonight is necessary. Luna flagged down a cab. Volkov is testing you. If you show up looking like you did this morning, competent but clearly new money, he'll eat you alive. But if you show up looking like this, she gestured at the garment bag, he'll respect you before you even speak. The salon was equally discreet, equally expensive. Camilla emerged with her hair styled in soft waves that looked effortless, but probably required 30 minutes of work to maintain. Her makeup was natural but flawless, emphasizing her dark eyes and high cheekbones. She looked like someone who belonged in Dante's world. Perfect, Luna declared when they were back in the cab. Now, ground rules for tonight. Don't speak unless Volkov or Dante addresses you directly. Don't drink more than 1 glass of wine. You need to stay sharp. Don't show surprise at anything you hear, no matter how shocking. And never, ever show fear. That's a lot of don'ts. Because one mistake with Volkov could cost Dante the deal, and you your job. Or your life, depending on how badly it goes wrong. Luna wasn't joking. He's old-school Russian Mafia. Women are either decorative or irrelevant in his world. You need to be neither. What should I be? Invisible, but essential. Present, but unremarkable. There, but not really there. Luna smiled at Camilla's confused expression. Think of yourself as a beautiful piece of furniture. Expensive, necessary for the room's function, but not the focus of attention. That's a depressing metaphor. That's survival in a world run by men with fragile egos and dangerous connections. Marco picked her up at 8 sharp, driving a black town car that smelled like leather and money. He said nothing during the ride, which Camilla appreciated. She needed the silence to calm her racing thoughts. The restaurant was in the financial district, another unmarked door that required a password to enter. Inside was warm amber lighting, private booths separated by screens, and the kind of quiet that suggested excellent soundproofing. Dante was already there, in a corner booth with clear sightlines to all entrances. He wore a dark suit that made him look even more dangerous than usual, and when he saw Camilla, something flickered in his eyes. Approval, maybe, or surprise. "You clean up well," he said as she slid into the booth beside him. Not across, beside, which sent a message about their relationship to anyone watching. Madame Voss and Luna did all the work. They did excellent work. His eyes traveled over her, professional but appreciative. "You look like you were born to this." Before Camilla could respond, the restaurant's entrance opened and a man entered who could only be Konstantin Volkov. He was massive, 6'4" at least, built like a wrestler who'd gone slightly soft in middle age. His suit was expensive but worn with the casual indifference of someone who had so much money that clothes were irrelevant. Cold blue eyes scanned the room, landing on their booth with predatory focus. "Showtime," Dante murmured. "Remember the rules." Volkov approached with 2 bodyguards who took positions near the booth, not sitting. Everything about the setup screamed power play. They were supposed to feel threatened. "Moretti." Volkov's voice was pure gravel, his accent thick. "I hope I didn't keep you waiting." "Not at all, Constantine." Dante stood, and Camilla followed suit. "Thank you for meeting on short notice." Volkov's eyes slid to Camilla, assessing her the way someone might appraise a horse. She forced herself to meet his gaze without flinching. "Who is this?" Not, "Who are you?" as if she couldn't speak for herself. "My assistant, Camilla Reyes." Dante's hand landed on the small of her back, possessive and protective. "She'll be coordinating logistics for our arrangement. I prefer to discuss business with you directly." "And we will." Camilla handles details, paperwork, scheduling. She's very good at her job. Dante's tone made it clear this wasn't negotiable. Volkov studied Camilla for another long moment, then smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Pretty and useful. Rare combination. The condescension was deliberate, designed to provoke a reaction. Luna's warnings echoed. "Don't show weakness. Don't show fear." "Mr. Volkov," Camilla said calmly, "shall we sit? We have significant ground to cover tonight." She didn't wait for permission, just slid back into the booth with fluid grace that said she belonged there. It was a small power move, taking control of the conversation's physical space. Volkov's eyebrows rose fractionally. Then he laughed, a booming sound that made nearby diners glance over nervously. "She has spine. I like this." He settled into the booth across from them, waving his guards back. "Okay, Moretti, let's talk about my egg." For the next hour, Camilla observed and learned. Dante negotiated with the casual confidence of someone who held all the cards, while Volkov pushed and probed for weaknesses. They discussed the Fabergé egg in careful language that never explicitly admitted it would be stolen, though that was obviously the plan. Acquisition timeline, transfer protocols, authentication procedures, payment structures. Camilla took no notes, per Dante's instructions, but memorized everything. The Swiss collector's security schedule, the authentication expert who'd verify the egg, the offshore account where payment would be deposited in 3 installments. Volkov tested her twice more during the meal. Once by asking her a direct question about wire transfer protocols, clearly expecting her not to know. She'd answered with confident precision, having absorbed the information from Dante's files that afternoon. The second time was crueler. He accidentally spilled wine on her dress, then watched to see if she'd panic. Camilla had simply dabbed at the stain with her napkin, expression unchanging, and continued listening to Dante outline the delivery schedule as if nothing had happened. By the time dessert arrived, Volkov was treating her like a piece of furniture, exactly as Luna had advised. Present but invisible, necessary but unremarkable. We have a deal, Volkov said finally, extending his massive hand toward Dante. 30 days to acquire, authenticate, and deliver. Standard terms. Standard terms, Dante agreed, shaking. Camila will coordinate the timeline with your assistant. Your little furniture piece has been very well behaved tonight. Volkov's smile was patronizing. I may need to borrow her for future acquisitions. Camilla works exclusively for me. Dante's voice went cold. Non-negotiable. The temperature at the table dropped 10 degrees. Volkov's bodyguards tensed. Then Volkov laughed again, diffusing the moment. Possessive, I understand. Good help is hard to find. He stood, his guards flanking him immediately. 30 days, Moretti, don't disappoint me. I never do. Volkov left, his presence evaporating like smoke. The moment he was gone, Dante's hand found Camilla's under the table, squeezing once. A silent, well done. You handled that perfectly, he said quietly. The wine spill, the condescension, the furniture wanted to punch him. I know, I could feel it. But you didn't, which is what matters. Dante released her hand and signaled for the check. Volkov will tell his network that I have a competent assistant who doesn't crack under pressure. That's valuable currency in my world. He treated me like an object. Yes. And you let him, because that's what the situation required. Dante's eyes held hers. This job will ask you to swallow your pride regularly, Camilla. To be underestimated, dismissed, and disrespected by people who think money makes them gods. The question is whether you can do that without losing yourself in the process. Could she? Camilla didn't know. Tonight had been easier than expected, maybe because part of her was still numb from Victoria's humiliation, or maybe because Volkov's condescension felt impersonal, transactional, unlike Victoria's personal cruelty. I need air, she said abruptly. Marco's waiting out front. I'd like to walk. Just a few blocks. Dante studied her, then nodded. I'll walk with you. They exited into the cool night air. Manhattan at night was a different creature. All shadows and possibility. The daytime's aggressive energy transmuted into something darker and more seductive. They walked in silence for a block, then two. Dante didn't push conversation, just stayed beside her, a solid presence in expensive wool. Thank you, Camilla said finally, for the warning about Volkov, for preparing me. You didn't need much preparation. Your instincts are good. He glanced at her. How do you feel? Angry, exhausted, weirdly exhilarated. She laughed, breathless. Is that normal? That's adrenaline. It fades. They turned a corner onto a quieter street. The anger doesn't, though. You'll learn to store it, use it. Every dismissive gesture. Remember them. They'll motivate you when the work gets hard. You sound like you speak from experience. I do. Dante stopped walking and Camilla turned to face him. I grew up in my father's shadow. Younger son, never supposed to inherit anything. People treated me like decorative furniture my entire childhood. So I learned to be underestimated. To let them think I was harmless while I built power they didn't see coming. Is that how you ended up running, whatever this is? That's how I ended up owning this city's underground economy while my older brother runs legitimate hotels and makes a fraction of what I do. His smile was sharp in the streetlight. Never underestimate someone people dismiss. We're the ones who change the world. They stood there on the sidewalk, the city moving around them, two people bound by circumstance and something else that neither was ready to name. I should get home, Camilla said, though she didn't move. You should. Dante also didn't move. Your new apartment is 3 blocks from here. Marco already delivered your things from the south side. You moved my stuff without asking? I told you the south side commute was unacceptable. Consider it handled. He started walking again, and she followed. Besides, your new place is significantly nicer. Building has security doorman. Gym, if you're into that. I can't afford. It's part of your compensation package. Non-negotiable. He stopped in front of a sleek glass tower. This is you. Apartment 24B. Marco left keys with the doorman. Camilla looked up at the building. It was beautiful, modern, the kind of place she'd walked past 1,000 times and never imagined living in. This is too much. This is necessary. You need to look like you belong in my world, which means living in the right neighborhoods, wearing the right clothes, projecting the right image. Dante's hand found her elbow, gentle but firm. Stop thinking like someone who has to count pennies, Camilla. That life is over. This is your life now. I've been counting pennies for 26 years. I don't know how to stop. You'll learn. He released her elbow. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start planning the Fabergé acquisition, which means calls to Switzerland and meetings with the authentication expert. It's going to be a long day. Dante. Yes? She didn't know what she wanted to say. Thank you felt inadequate. This is insane felt obvious. I'm terrified felt too vulnerable. Nothing. Just, good night. Good night, Camila. He stepped back, hands in his pockets. You did well tonight. Better than well. I'm glad I followed you into that elevator. He walked away before she could respond, disappearing into the Manhattan night like he'd been swallowed by shadows. Camilla entered her new building, smiled at the doorman who handed her a key card, and took the elevator to the 24th floor. Her apartment was at the end of the hall, and when she opened the door, she had to pause and breathe. It was beautiful. Open concept living space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Modern kitchen with appliances she didn't know how to use. Bedroom with a king bed and linens that felt like clouds. Her belongings from the south side looked pathetic in the new space. A duffel bag of clothes, a box of books, a few photographs. 3 years of her life reduced to things that could fit in Marco's trunk. But tomorrow she'd have new clothes. A new wardrobe suitable for her new life. Tomorrow she'd coordinate a 30-day plan to steal a Fabergé egg from a Swiss collector. Tomorrow she'd continue becoming someone Victoria Ashford wouldn't recognize. Camilla changed into her old pajamas, worn cotton that felt wrong against her skin after the expensive dress, and stood at the windows, looking out at the city that was now her territory. Somewhere out there, Victoria was probably asleep in her mansion, dreaming of her wedding to Marcus Ashford III, secure in her power and position. She had no idea what was coming. Camilla smiled, and for the first time since her father's death, it was genuine. The private jet was Camilla's first indication that she'd severely underestimated Dante's resources. "We're not flying commercial?" she asked Marco as they climbed the stairs at 4:45 a.m. Mr. Moretti doesn't trust commercial airlines with sensitive operations. Marco gestured for her to enter. Too many security cameras, passenger manifests, customs records. Private aviation leaves fewer traces. The interior was all cream leather and polished wood. A flight attendant appeared immediately with coffee and pastries that smelled like heaven. 6-hour flight, Marco said, settling into a seat across from her. I suggest you sleep. Zurich meetings start at 4 p.m. local time, which gives us 90 minutes after landing to prepare. Camilla accepted the coffee gratefully. Have you done this before? The Swiss operation? 17 times. Different targets, different clients. Always the same careful choreography. Marco pulled out a tablet. Let me walk you through today's schedule one more time. For the next hour, they reviewed every detail. The car that would meet them at the airport. The hotel where Catherine Reynolds had a reservation. The cafe where Camilla would meet Dr. Strauss at precisely 4 p.m. She'll test you, Marco warned. Ask questions about your background, your firm, your credentials. Everything in your legend is backed up. We have a website, business registration, even fake client testimonials. But you need to sell it. I've been studying Catherine Reynolds for 3 days. I could pass a lie detector test. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Marco's expression was grim. Swiss police are very thorough when they suspect art fraud. If this goes wrong, diplomatic immunity won't protect you. Comforting. I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to make sure you don't get arrested or killed. He set down the tablet. Miss Reyes, Camila, Mr. Moretti is trusting you with a very expensive operation. Volkov has already paid 50% up front. If we can't deliver, I understand the stakes. Do you? Marco leaned forward. Because I've seen what happens when operations fail. The last person who disappointed Volkov was found in the Hudson River wearing concrete shoes. Literally. Not a movie cliché. Actual concrete shoes. Camilla's coffee suddenly tasted sour. Mr. Moretti believes in you, Marco continued. More than he's believed in anyone since his last assistant. But belief doesn't stop bullets or prevent international incidents. You need to execute this perfectly. No pressure. All the pressure. Marco stood. Get some sleep. I'll wake you an hour before landing. He disappeared into a private cabin, leaving Camilla alone with her coffee and her racing thoughts. Through the window, she watched the Atlantic pass beneath them, dark water stretching to the horizon. Somewhere down there was her old life. The 3 jobs, the tiny apartment, the quiet desperation of debt she couldn't escape. That Camilla felt like a stranger now. She pulled out her encrypted phone and found a message from Dante, sent 20 minutes ago. Don't overthink it. You're smarter than everyone in that room. Trust your instincts. DM simple, direct, completely unhelpful and somehow exactly what she needed to hear. Camilla closed her eyes and let the jet's engines lull her into fitful sleep. Zurich was beautiful in that precise, orderly way that made Camilla feel like chaos personified. Clean streets, efficient public transportation, people who crossed at crosswalks and never jaywalked. The hotel was equally perfect, a 5-star establishment near the financial district where Catherine Reynolds would plausibly stay. Her suite had a view of the lake, and enough space for a small family. You have 2 hours? Marco said, depositing her luggage. I'll be in the lobby. Phone stays on. Any sense that something's wrong, you abort immediately. And if I abort? Then we lose Volkov's 50% deposit, Mr. Moretti's reputation takes a hit, and you've failed your first real assignment. Marco's expression softened slightly. But you'll be alive, which is more important than money. He left, and Camilla was alone with her nerves and her Catherine Reynolds identity. She showered, changed into a charcoal suit that Madame Voss had selected specifically for this meeting, and spent 30 minutes reviewing her legend one final time. Columbia graduate, art history degree, 5 years at Morrison and Associates Art Consultancy, specialized in Romanov artifacts. It was all completely fabricated, but backed by enough digital evidence that even a thorough investigation would find everything aligned. At 3:30 p.m., Camilla left the hotel and walked to the cafe where Dr. Strauss had agreed to meet. It was a small place, tucked between banks and watch shops, the kind of establishment that served expensive coffee to people who could afford to waste an hour discussing art. Dr. Strauss was already there. She sat in the back corner, exactly as described, severe gray suit, hair in that tight bun, eyes that tracked Camilla's approach with predatory intensity. Dr. Strauss? Camilla extended her hand. Catherine Reynolds, thank you for meeting me on short notice. The handshake was brief, clinical. Sit, Miss Reynolds. You're 2 minutes early. I appreciate punctuality. Camilla sat, setting her portfolio on the table between them. I understand you're very busy. I'll try not to waste your time. My time is worth 3,000 euros per hour. I suggest you use it wisely. Dr. Strauss signaled the waiter for coffee. You represent Morrison and Associates? For 5 years? Yes. Curious. I called Morrison yesterday. They have no record of anyone named Catherine Reynolds. Camilla's heart skipped, but her expression didn't change. This was the test. Marco had warned her. Did you speak with Gerald Morrison directly or his assistant? His assistant. Helen something. Helen retired 6 months ago. The new girl is still learning our client confidentiality protocols. Camilla opened her portfolio smoothly. Gerald prefers that certain consultants remain discreet, especially those of us who handle acquisitions for clients who value privacy. Convenient. Necessary. Camilla met Dr. Strauss's eyes directly. The client I represent is acquiring a significant Romanov piece. They need authentication from someone whose expertise is unquestionable. Your name came highly recommended. By whom? Dmitry Kuznetsov. He said you authenticated the Alexander III egg for him last year. Dr. Strauss's expression shifted fractionally. Dmitry Kuznetsov was real, a Russian oligarch who did collect Fabergé eggs. Dante had assured her that Dr. Strauss would recognize the name. Dmitry speaks too freely. But Dr. Strauss's tone had warmed by perhaps half a degree. What piece does your client wish to authenticate? The Danish palace's egg, 1890, currently held in a private Swiss collection. The coffee arrived. Dr. Strauss took hers black, sipping while she studied Camilla with those penetrating eyes. The Danish palace's egg hasn't been seen publicly in 30 years. How did your liberty to discuss? Camilla opened her portfolio, revealing photographs of the egg that Alex had somehow obtained. The collector is willing to sell, pending authentication. My client won't proceed without verification from someone of your caliber. Flattery is transparent, Miss Reynolds. It's also accurate. You've authenticated more Romanov artifacts than anyone living. My client trusts your judgment implicitly. Dr. Strauss studied the photographs with the intensity of someone reading sacred texts. Her fingers traced the egg's enamel work, the platinum filigree, the miniature palaces visible through the translucent shell. These photographs are insufficient for authentication. I would need to examine the piece directly. Of course, the collector has agreed to make it available for your inspection. 3 days from now, at his estate outside Lausanne. His name? Herr Friedrich Feller. Another real person. A banker who did collect art, though he didn't actually own the Danish palace's egg. But Dr. Strauss wouldn't know that until she arrived at the estate. And by then, she'd be committed to the authentication. I know Wüller. We've never worked together, but his collection is reputable. Dr. Strauss set down the photographs. My fee for authentication is 50,000 euros, half up front, half upon completion. If the egg is fake, you still pay the full amount. Understood. How would you like the deposit transferred? Dr. Strauss provided account information that Camilla memorized. No writing, nothing that could be traced. When the coffee was finished, they shook hands again. 3 days, Miss Reynolds. Weller's estate. 10 a.m. sharp. We'll be there. Thank you for your time, Dr. Strauss. Camilla left the cafe with her heart still racing but her expression calm. 2 blocks away, she found Marco waiting in the car. How did it go? He asked immediately. She's in. 3 days. Fuller's estate. 10 a.m. Marco pulled into traffic. Did she suspect anything? She tested me on Morrison and Associates. I handled it. Good. He navigated through Zurich's orderly streets. Now comes the hard part. We need to actually acquire the egg before Dr. Strauss arrives to authenticate it. I thought we were stealing it from Fuller? We are. But the real owner is a banker named Klaus Richter who stores his collection in Fuller's vault. It's complicated. Everything about this operation is complicated. Welcome to international art theft. Marco turned onto a highway heading out of the city. We're meeting our acquisition team tonight. 3 specialists, 1 vault expert, 1 security systems hacker, 1 Let's call him Muscle, in case things go wrong. What could go wrong? Marco's laugh was dark. Everything, Miss Reyes. Absolutely everything. The acquisition team met in a farmhouse 20 kilometers outside Zurich, isolated enough that screaming wouldn't carry to neighbors, which was either very reassuring or terrifying, depending on perspective. This is Camilla. Marco introduced her to the three people waiting in the farmhouse's main room. She's coordinating for Mr. Moretti. The vault expert was a tiny woman in her 60s who introduced herself only as Greta. She had the hands of a surgeon and the eyes of someone who'd seen the inside of many illegal operations. The hacker was younger, maybe 30, rail thin with the pale complexion of someone who lived in front of computer screens. Call me Kay, he said, not looking up from his laptop. The muscle was exactly what Camilla expected. 6'3", built like a tank, with scars that suggested violence was indeed his profession. Dmitri, he rumbled in an accent she couldn't place. Pleasure, Camilla said, though it absolutely wasn't. Greta spread blueprints across the table. Filler's estate has a private vault in the basement, 3-foot-thick concrete walls, steel door with a 6-digit combination plus biometric scanner. Inside are approximately 40 pieces from various collectors who pay Fuller to store their treasures. How do we get in? Camilla asked. Fuller has a party tomorrow night. Annual charity gala, 200 guests, most of the local elite. Security will be focused on the main house and grounds. The vault entrance is accessible through the wine cellar. Kay turned his laptop to show security camera feeds. I've been monitoring their systems for a week. Camera rotation every 45 seconds. Guards patrol the basement every 20 minutes. We'll have a 7-minute window when the shift changes at midnight. 7 minutes to crack a biometric vault? Camilla looked at Greta. Is that possible? 6 minutes to crack. 1 minute to locate and extract the egg. Greta's smile was unsettling. I've opened worse in less time. What about the party? Marco asked. We need someone inside to create a distraction. All eyes turned to Camilla. Absolutely not, she said immediately. I'm coordinating, not infiltrating. You're the only one who can pass as high society, Marco countered. Greta, Kay, and Dmitri are specialists. They don't do gala infiltration. I'm security. That leaves you. I don't know anything about Swiss high society. You know enough. Rich people are the same everywhere. Vapid, self-important, easy to manipulate. Marco pulled up a guest list on his phone. You'll attend as Catherine Reynolds, art consultant. Mingle, drink champagne, be seen in the main house while we're in the basement. If security asks questions later, they'll remember you were nowhere near the vault. This is insane. This is the job. Marco's expression was sympathetic but firm. Mr. Moretti sent you because he trusts you to handle complications. This is a complication. Camilla looked at the team. Greta was already studying vault schematics. Kay was typing code that probably did illegal things to security systems. Dmitri was checking what looked like a very real gun. She was so far out of her depth that drowning seemed inevitable. Fine, she heard herself say. What do I wear to a Swiss charity gala? The dress Madame Voss had packed for emergencies was emerald green silk that made Camilla's dark hair and eyes look dramatic. With it came shoes that cost more than her old car and jewelry that was either very good fakes or actual diamonds. She didn't want to know which. The party started at 8. Camilla arrived at 8:30, fashionably late, as Catherine Reynolds would be. A car service dropped her at Fuller's estate, which looked like something from a fairy tale. All turrets and manicured gardens, lit by thousands of tiny lights. Name? The security guard at the entrance asked. Catherine Reynolds, Morrison and Associates Art Consultancy. He checked his tablet, nodded, and waved her through. Inside was exactly what Camilla expected. Crystal chandeliers, string quartet, waiters circulating with champagne and caviar. 200 people in designer clothes discussing art and money and whatever rich people discussed at galas. It reminded her viscerally of Victoria's engagement party. The same casual wealth, the same performative sophistication, the same underlying cruelty. But this time, Camilla belonged. She accepted champagne from a passing waiter and began circulating, catching fragments of conversation in German, French, English. She smiled at strangers, nodded at appropriate moments, played the part of an art consultant attending a colleague's party. At 11:30, her phone buzzed with a text from Marco. In position. 30 minutes. Camilla's pulse kicked up, but she kept her expression neutral. She drifted toward the library where smaller groups were discussing a sculpture that looked like twisted metal but probably cost 6 figures. Hideous, isn't it? A voice said beside her. Camilla turned to find a woman about her age, blonde, beautiful, wearing a dress that cost more than Camilla's monthly salary. I think it's abstract, Camilla offered diplomatically. It's garbage welded together by someone who convinced rich idiots they were buying art. The woman extended her hand. Isabel Fuller. My father owns this monstrosity of a house. Oh. Shit. Catherine Reynolds. Camilla shook, hoping her palm wasn't sweating. Art consultant. How wonderfully vague. Isabel's smile was sharp. Let me guess. You're here because one of my father's boring friends is buying something and you're authenticating it? Something like that. Well, Catherine Reynolds, art consultant, you're the most interesting person I've met tonight. Everyone else wants to discuss portfolio diversification and tax shelters. Isabel linked her arm through Camilla's. Come, I'll show you my father's actual good art, the pieces he doesn't parade for these Philistines. Before Camilla could protest, Isabel was guiding her through the crowd toward a hallway marked Private No Entry. Should we be going back there? Camilla asked. I live here. I can go wherever I want. Isabel pulled a key card from her clutch and swiped it. The door unlocked with a soft click. They entered a corridor lined with paintings that made Camilla's breath catch. A Monet. A Renoir. Something that looked suspiciously like a Van Gogh that had been reported stolen from Amsterdam 5 years ago. My father's real collection, Isabel said proudly. Everything out there is just for show. This is what he actually cares about. Camilla's phone buzzed again. Marco. Basement access compromised. Guard off schedule. Need more time. Are you all right? Isabel asked. You look pale. Just overwhelmed by the art. Camilla needed to keep Isabel occupied, away from whatever was happening in the basement. These pieces are extraordinary. How did your father acquire them? Isabel laughed. You mean, are they stolen? Some probably are. My father doesn't ask too many questions when something beautiful becomes available. They carry on each piece. Camilla barely heard her, too focused on her phone hidden in her clutch. Marco. 2 minutes. Isabel stopped in front of a heavy wooden door. And this is the vault entrance, where my father keeps the really valuable pieces. Camilla's blood froze. Vault? She managed. Private storage for his clients. He charges a fortune, but apparently it's worth it for the security. Isabel tried the handle. Always locked. I've been trying to get in since I was 12. Want to bet I still can't? The handle turned. Isabel's eyebrows rose. Well, that's new. She pushed the door open, and Camilla saw the stairs leading down to the basement, where Marco, Greta, Kay, and Dimitri were currently stealing a Fabergé egg. How strange, Isabel murmured. It's never unlocked. She started down the stairs. Camilla had exactly 3 seconds to decide. Let Isabel discover the heist and blow the entire operation, or stop her somehow. She grabbed Isabel's arm. Wait. Why? I think I hear voices. Maybe security is down there. Isabel paused, listening. From below, Camilla could indeed hear faint sounds, movement, low voices. You're right. Isabel frowned. That's odd. Security doesn't usually patrol during parties. Camilla needed to get her away from this door immediately. Isabel, I have a confession. She manufactured her most embarrassed expression. I didn't come to this party for art consultation. I came to meet someone. A man? Yes. And he's married. Camilla lowered her voice conspiratorially. We were supposed to meet in the library at midnight. If your security is roaming around, I need to warn him. Isabel's expression transformed into delighted intrigue. Oh, this is much better than discussing my father's boring art collection. Who is he? Do I know him? I can't say, but if you help me find him before security does. Camilla let the implication hang. Say no more. Isabel grabbed Camilla's hand and pulled her back up the stairs, away from the vault. I love a good scandal. We'll find your married man and make sure he doesn't get caught. They emerged back into the main party, and Isabel immediately started scanning the crowd for potential candidates. Camilla's phone buzzed one final time. Marco, clear. Exiting now. Relief flooded through her so intensely she almost laughed. That one? Isabel pointed at a distinguished man in his 50s. He looks like he'd have a mistress. No, that's not him. They spent the next 20 minutes playing Isabel's game of Guess the Married Lover, while Camilla's team presumably made their escape with a priceless Fabergé egg. At 12:30, Camilla claimed a headache and called for her car service. This was the most fun I've had at one of these parties in years, Isabel said, kissing both her cheeks in the European style. You must come back. And next time, bring your mysterious married man. I want details. I'll see what I can do. Camilla escaped to the waiting car before anything else could go catastrophically wrong. Marco was in the driver's seat instead of the service driver. Drive, she said, climbing in. Drive very fast and very far away from here. He pulled away from the estate with careful legal speed. Only when they were on the highway did he speak. That was closer than I'd like. What happened? Guard shift changed early. Dmitri had to convince one to take an extended break. Marco's expression was grim. Non-fatal convincing. He'll wake up with a headache and no memory of the last hour. And the egg? Marco gestured to a case in the passenger seat. Greta got it in 4 minutes. She's an artist. Camilla opened the case with shaking hands. The Danish palace's egg sat nestled in protective foam, exactly as beautiful as the photographs had suggested. Translucent pink enamel over gold, with tiny platinum palaces visible through the shell. The artistry was breathtaking. We just stole this, Camilla whispered. We acquired it for a client, Marco corrected. Theft is such an ugly word. It's also accurate. Details. He merged onto the highway toward Zurich. The important thing is, we have it. Dr. Strauss can authenticate it day after tomorrow. We deliver to Volkov next week. And you complete your first international operation successfully. Camilla closed the case, her hands still trembling. I almost ruined everything. Isabel Feller took me straight to the vault door. But you didn't let her go down. You improvised, created a distraction, and got her away from the operation. Marco glanced at her. That's exactly the kind of thinking Mr. Moretti needs from you. I lied about having an affair with a married man. I've heard worse cover stories. Marco's expression softened slightly. You did well tonight, Miss Reyes. Better than well. Many people would have panicked. I was panicking. I just did it quietly. That's the definition of competence in our world. They drove in silence for a while, Zurich's lights appearing on the horizon. Marco? Camilla asked. How many of these operations have gone wrong? Approximately 30%. What happens when they go wrong? Depends on the variables. Sometimes we abort and lose the deposit. Sometimes we salvage and deliver partial results. Sometimes. He didn't finish, but his meaning was clear. Sometimes people died. Has anyone died on an operation you've run? 3 people. 2 were our team members who made critical mistakes. 1 was a client who tried to double-cross Mr. Moretti. Marco's voice was matter-of-fact. This is a dangerous business, Miss Reyes. We mitigate risk, but we can't eliminate it. Camilla thought about Isabel's trusting face as she'd been lied to, about the guard who'd been knocked unconscious, about the priceless egg sitting in the case beside her. I'm an art thief now, she said to herself as much as Marco. You're a facilitator. Semantics matter in our world. He pulled up to her hotel. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we arrange the authentication with Dr. Strauss. Then you fly home with proof that you can handle the complicated operations. And Volkov? Mr. Moretti will handle Volkov personally. Your part is done. Marco's expression was approving. You should be proud. Not many people survive their first Swiss operation. Camilla climbed out of the car, egg case in hand, and walked into the hotel lobby feeling like she'd aged 10 years in 12 hours. In her suite, she set the case on the desk and stared at it. 24 hours ago, she'd been nervous about meeting Dr. Strauss. Now she'd successfully executed an international art heist, lied to the collector's daughter, and was in possession of a priceless Fabergé egg. Her phone buzzed. Dante. Marco says you were brilliant. I knew you would be. DM. She stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. I committed a felony in Switzerland. His response was immediate. Only if you get caught. Get some sleep. You've earned it. Camilla set down her phone and went to the window. Zurich spread below her, beautiful and orderly, completely unaware that somewhere in its perfect streets, a crime had been committed by a girl from the south side of Manhattan who 3 weeks ago had been cleaning houses for minimum wage. She should feel guilty, ashamed, terrified of consequences. Instead, she felt exhilarated. Victoria Ashford had thrown her out like she meant nothing. Now Camilla was stealing Fabergé eggs from Swiss bankers and lying to their daughters without breaking a sweat. The transformation was complete, and she was just getting started. Dr. Strauss arrived at the designated meeting point, a private viewing room at a Zurich art dealer, at precisely 10 a.m. Camilla was already there, having spent the previous hour making sure every detail was perfect. The egg sat on a velvet-lined table under museum-quality lighting. Authentication tools were arranged within easy reach. Tea service waited on a side table, Earl Grey, because Camilla had researched Dr. Strauss's preferences. Miss Reynolds? Dr. Strauss entered without knocking, her assistant carrying a large case of equipment. You've prepared well. I know your time is valuable. Camilla gestured to the tea. Would you like anything before we begin? No. Let's proceed immediately. Dr. Strauss approached the egg with the reverence of someone entering a cathedral. For the next 2 hours, Camilla watched a master at work. Dr. Strauss examined every millimeter of the egg's surface with a jeweler's loupe, photographed it from 40 different angles, tested the enamel's chemical composition with instruments Camilla didn't recognize, compared the platinum filigree to historical photographs from Fabergé's workshop records. She worked in complete silence, occasionally making notes in a leather journal but never speaking. Camilla forced herself to remain still, to project confidence she absolutely didn't feel. If Dr. Strauss detected anything wrong, any sign that this egg hadn't been acquired legitimately, the entire operation would collapse. Finally, after what felt like years, Dr. Strauss sat back. Authentic, she pronounced. 1890, workshop of Peter Carl Fabergé, created for Tsar Alexander III as a gift for his wife. The Danish palace's egg, one of only 8 eggs from that early period still in private hands. Relief flooded through Camilla so intensely she had to grip the table for support. You're certain? Miss Reynolds, I have authenticated 37 Fabergé eggs in my career. I am always certain. Dr. Strauss closed her journal with a definitive snap. Your client has acquired a treasure. The provenance documentation is in order? Complete chain of custody from 1917 to present. All forged, of course, but beautifully forged. Alex had spent a week creating paperwork that could withstand expert scrutiny. Excellent. Dr. Strauss began packing her equipment. My full report will be delivered to Morrison and Associates within 3 business days. The remaining €25,000 should be transferred to my account by end of day. Of course. Thank you, Dr. Strauss. They shook hands, and Dr. Strauss left with her assistant, taking her expertise and her legitimate seal of approval with her. Camilla waited until she heard the elevator descend, then pulled out her phone. It's done. Authenticated. No issues. CR Dante's response came within seconds. Excellent work. Come home. We have champagne waiting. Marco appeared from the adjacent room where he'd been monitoring security feeds. That went perfectly, he said. Dr. Strauss suspected nothing. She's too good to be fooled by forged provenance. Camilla carefully packed the egg back into its protective case. Which means Alex's paperwork was flawless. Alex is very good at making lies look like truth. It's a valuable skill in our world. Marco took the case from her. Private jet leaves in 3 hours. You'll be back in Manhattan by dinner. What happens to the egg now? I deliver it to Mr. Moretti. He delivers it to Volkov. Volkov pays the remaining balance. Everyone's happy. Except the original owner who just had his priceless artifact stolen. Marco's smile was thin. Klaus Richter acquired that egg through questionable means himself in 1994. Some would say we're simply redistributing stolen property. That's a convenient rationalization. That's how we sleep at night, Miss Reyes. He held the door for her. Welcome to moral ambiguity, population, everyone in this business. The flight home felt different than the flight to Zurich. Camilla was exhausted, yes, but also accomplished. She'd executed a complex international operation, infiltrated a high society gala, improvised when plans went wrong, convinced an expert to authenticate a stolen artifact. 3 weeks ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was indispensable. Dante met her at the private airfield personally, which surprised her. He was leaning against a black Mercedes, hands in his pockets, looking relaxed in a way she'd never seen. Welcome home, he said as she descended from the jet. How was your first Swiss operation? Terrifying, complicated, and somehow successful despite multiple things going wrong. That describes most of our operations. Dante took her bag from Marco, dismissing him with a nod. Come on, we need to celebrate properly. I'm exhausted. I need to sleep for approximately 12 hours. You can sleep later. Right now, we're going to toast your success with champagne that costs more than most people's rent. He opened the car door and Camilla was too tired to argue. She slid into the leather seats, noting that Dante was driving himself rather than having a driver. Where are we going? My place. Luna, Alex, and Marco are already there. We always celebrate successful operations. Dante pulled onto the highway. It's tradition, and you've earned it. I committed multiple felonies in a foreign country. You facilitated a complex acquisition for a demanding client and delivered exactly what was promised. Dante glanced at her. Stop thinking like a civilian, Camilla. You're one of us now. One of us. The words should have been ominous. Instead, they felt right. Dante? Camilla asked quietly. When does it stop feeling surreal? The work? The danger? The moral compromise? All of it. He was silent for a long moment, navigating through Manhattan traffic. It doesn't, really. You just get better at compartmentalizing. The criminal stuff happens in one box. Your personal life happens in another. You keep them separate enough that you can sleep at night. And if they start bleeding together, then you have a problem. His eyes found hers briefly before returning to the road. But that's why I have rules. No personal attachments to clients. No mixing business with pleasure. No letting emotions compromise judgment. Sounds lonely. It's survival. Dante's jaw tightened fractionally. I've seen what happens when people in this business fall in love, trust the wrong person, let their guard down. It ends badly. Always. Camilla thought about the warning he'd given her on the first day. Don't fall in love with your boss. It always ends badly. Is that what happened to your last assistant? She fell for the wrong person? She fell for a federal prosecutor who promised her immunity in exchange for testimony. Dante's voice went cold. She chose him over me, nearly destroyed everything I'd built. But she didn't. Only because I found out in time, got her into witness protection before she could testify. Disappeared her so thoroughly that even the FBI can't find her. He pulled up to his building, tossing his keys to the valet. She's alive, but she lost everything. Her identity, her life, her freedom. That's what happens when you mix business with feelings. It was a warning. Clear, direct, impossible to misinterpret. Camilla followed him into the building, into the elevator, up to the penthouse where Luna, Alex, and Marco were indeed waiting with champagne and food and congratulations. For the next 3 hours, she basked in their approval. Luna hugged her and called her a badass. Alex, who rarely spoke, said, "Well done," which apparently was high praise. Marco recounted the vault operation with theatrical detail that made it sound more exciting than terrifying. And Dante watched her with those amber eyes, pride and something else mixing in his expression. Around midnight, the others left. Luna had to prep for a morning meeting. Alex muttered something about needing to research a new acquisition. Marco had an early flight. And then it was just Camilla and Dante, alone in his vast penthouse with city lights sprawling below them. "You should go," Dante said, but he didn't move from where he stood by the windows. "You've been traveling for hours. You need real sleep." "I should," Camilla agreed, also not moving. The air between them felt charged, dangerous. Everything he'd said about rules and boundaries hung in the space like a challenge. "Camilla." Her name in his voice did something to her pulse. "This is the moment where you leave. Go back to your apartment. And we maintain proper professional distance." "Why?" "Because I'm your boss. Because mixing personal and professional is how people get hurt. Because I need you functional, not distracted by—" He gestured vaguely between them. "By what? Exactly?" Dante closed the distance between them in 3 strides. Suddenly he was there, close enough that she could see the stubble on his jaw, smell his cologne, feel heat radiating from his body. "By this," he said, his hand coming up to cup her face. "By the fact that I haven't stopped thinking about you since you got on that plane to Zurich. By the way you handled every complication with perfect composure. By how fucking brilliant you are at this job." His thumb traced her lower lip, and Camilla's breath caught. "That sounds like your problem, not mine," she managed. "It's both our problem if we do anything about it." But he wasn't stepping back. His hand was still on her face, his body close enough that she could feel his heartbeat. "Tell me to stop, Camilla. Tell me this is a terrible idea and walk away." She should. Everything he'd said about rules and boundaries made logical sense. Getting involved with her criminal boss was probably the worst decision she could make. But logic had stopped mattering somewhere between Zurich and Manhattan. "No," she said simply. "No? No, I'm not telling you to stop. And no, I'm not walking away." Camilla reached up, her fingers finding the collar of his shirt. "We're both adults. We can handle this." "Can we?" Dante's voice had gone rough. "Because in my experience, handling it is code for, this will blow up spectacularly and ruin everything. Then maybe we shouldn't do it. Maybe we shouldn't." But his other hand had found her waist, pulling her closer. "Are you going to let go? Are you?" They stood there, locked in that moment, both knowing exactly what would happen next, and both helpless to stop it. Dante kissed her first. Or maybe Camilla kissed him. Later, she wouldn't be able to say who moved first, only that suddenly his mouth was on hers and everything else stopped mattering. It wasn't gentle. It was 3 weeks of tension and danger and unspoken attraction igniting all at once. His hands in her hair, her fingers clutching his shirt, both of them desperate and reckless in equal measure. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante's expression was torn between desire and regret. "This is a mistake," he said, but he didn't release her. "Probably," Camilla agreed. "Are we doing it anyway?" "Apparently." He kissed her again, and this time there was no hesitation. They stumbled toward his bedroom, leaving a trail of shed clothing and broken rules behind them. Later, much later, Camilla lay in Dante's bed, the city lights painting patterns on the ceiling, and realized she'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. She'd become his assistant, his criminal accomplice, and now his lover. All in less than a month. Beside her, Dante was asleep, one arm draped across her waist like he was afraid she'd disappear. In sleep, he looked younger, less dangerous, almost vulnerable. Camilla's phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from an unknown number. "Saw you at Vuller's party." Didn't realize Catherine Reynolds was actually Camilla Reyes. "We should talk." VA. Her blood turned to ice. Victoria Ashford. Victoria had been at the Zurich gala, had seen her, knew her fake identity, which meant everything was about to get significantly more complicated. Camilla stared at the text message until the screen went dark, then lit it again with shaking fingers. "Saw you at Vuller's party." Didn't realize Catherine Reynolds was actually Camilla Reyes. "We should talk." VA. Beside her, Dante stirred. "What's wrong?" She should have lied, should have said nothing, and dealt with this herself. But the fear must have shown on her face because Dante was suddenly alert, sitting up and taking the phone from her nerveless fingers. He read the message once, then again, his expression going dangerously calm. "Victoria Ashford?" Camilla said unnecessarily. "She was at the gala. She saw me." "As Catherine Reynolds. Who doesn't exist. Who's just a fake identity we created to facilitate art theft." Camilla's voice was rising despite her best efforts to stay calm. "Dante, if she tells anyone, if she does even basic research, she won't. You don't know that. I know exactly what she'll do." Dante got out of bed, pulling on pants with mechanical efficiency. "She'll try to use this information as leverage, try to blackmail you or me, or both of us. Because that's what people like Victoria do. They find weakness and exploit it." He was right. Camilla could practically see the thought process. Victoria would have recognized her at the gala, would have been shocked to see the girl she'd humiliated 3 weeks ago mingling with Swiss elite under a fake name. And being Victoria, she'd immediately start planning how to use that information to her advantage. "What do we do?" Camilla asked. Dante was already pulling out his own phone, typing rapid messages. "We get ahead of it. Luna, I need a full background workup on Victoria Ashford. Everything. Financial records, phone logs, social media, affairs, secrets. I want to know what she's hiding before she tries to use what she knows about you." He sent the message, then looked at Camilla. "Get dressed. We're going to have a very early breakfast with Miss Ashford and explain exactly why she's going to forget she ever saw you in Zurich." "Dante, maybe we should..." "Should what? Let her blackmail you? Let her expose an operation worth millions and get Volkov angry enough to kill us both?" His voice was harsh, but his hand on her shoulder was gentle. "This is what I do, Camilla. I handle problems, and Victoria Ashford is about to become a very manageable problem." Victoria had suggested meeting at a cafe in the Upper East Side, her territory, where she'd feel safe and powerful. Dante countered with a restaurant he owned in Tribeca, where every employee was on his payroll and every table had clear sightlines. She'd agreed, which told Camilla that Victoria didn't yet understand who she was dealing with. They arrived, 15 minutes early. Dante positioned them at a corner booth, ordered coffee, and pulled out a tablet that Luna had delivered to the car. Victoria Ashford, he read, scrolling through documents. 28, trust fund baby, engaged to Marcus Ashford III, and currently embezzling from her family's charity foundation to cover gambling debts her fiancé doesn't know about. Camilla blinked. What? Apparently, Miss Ashford has expensive taste in online poker. She's down 300,000 over the past year. Been siphoning money from the Ashford Foundation for Children to cover her losses. Dante's smile was sharp. Luna's very good at finding secrets people want to keep hidden. How did she get all this in an hour? Luna's been monitoring high society financial patterns for me for years, part of how we identify potential clients. He set down the tablet as Victoria entered the restaurant. She looked exactly as Camilla remembered. Beautiful, polished, radiating the casual entitlement that came from never being told no. But now Camilla could see the tension around her eyes, the way her designer handbag clutched a little too tightly. Victoria spotted them and headed over, her expression shifting from confident to confused when she saw Dante. Camilla, she said, sliding into the booth without being invited. I wasn't expecting company. Victoria, this is Dante Moretti, my employer. Camilla kept her voice steady. Dante, Victoria Ashford. Charmed. Victoria's smile was calculating as she extended her hand to Dante. Moretti, I've heard that name. I'm sure you have. Dante didn't shake her hand, just gestured to the waiting coffee. You wanted to talk about seeing Camilla in Zurich. Victoria withdrew her hand, cheeks flushing slightly at the snub. Yes. Well, I was surprised to see her at Fuller's gala, under a different name, acting like she belonged in that world. She does belong, Dante said simply. She works for me. As what? An art consultant named Catherine Reynolds who doesn't actually exist? Victoria leaned forward. I did some research after I got home. There's no record of Catherine Reynolds at Morrison and Associates. The website exists, but it's a shell. Very well done. Very convincing, but ultimately fake. Impressive detective work, Dante said. What do you want, Victoria? The bluntness seemed to throw her. She'd probably expected denials, maybe panic. Not this calm acknowledgement. I want Camilla to tell Marcus the truth about her father, Victoria said finally. I want her to admit that he was a degenerate gambler who killed himself and left her with debts she can't pay. I want Marcus to know that she's been lying about working 3 legitimate jobs when she's actually working for— What exactly do you do, Mr. Moretti? I facilitate transactions, Dante replied. And before you threaten to expose Camilla's employment with me, let's discuss what that would cost you. He slid the tablet across the table, showing Victoria her own financial records. The color drained from her face. You can't have this. This is private. This is illegal. Says the woman embezzling from a children's charity. Dante's voice was pleasant, conversational. $300,000 over 12 months. Very sloppy, Victoria. You didn't even bother covering your tracks properly. I don't know what you're talking about. Online poker. Specifically, a site called Royal Flush that operates from Malta to avoid U.S. gambling laws. You've lost $307,000 in the past year. You've been stealing from your family's foundation to cover the losses and the mounting interest from the loan sharks you borrowed from when the foundation money ran out. Victoria's hands were shaking. You're lying. Am I? Dante pulled up another document. Here's a receipt from your most recent transfer. $50,000 from the foundation to your personal account, then immediately to Royal Flush. Would you like me to show you the others? Silence. Victoria looked between Dante and Camilla, her expression cycling through shock, fear, and finally rage. You think you can blackmail me? I don't think. I know. Dante closed the tablet. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to delete Camilla's number from your phone. You're going to forget you ever saw her in Zurich. You're going to go back to your engagement party planning and your embezzling and your gambling problem, and you're never going to contact her again. And if I don't? Then I send these financial records to the FBI, to your fiancé, to every society columnist in New York, and to the board of the Ashford Foundation. Dante's smile was pure predator. Your engagement ends, your family disowns you, and you spend the next 5 to 10 years in federal prison explaining to your cellmate why you thought stealing from sick children was a good idea. Victoria stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. You can't do this. You can't threaten me. I'm not threatening you. I'm explaining consequences. Dante remained seated, completely relaxed. You came here to blackmail Camilla. I'm simply showing you why that's a very bad idea. Marcus will hear about this. Go ahead. Tell your fiancé that you tried to blackmail the girl you publicly humiliated and discovered she now works for someone with enough resources to expose your embezzlement. Dante's expression was almost kind. See how that conversation goes. Victoria looked at Camilla, and for a moment, genuine hatred flashed in her eyes. You think you've won? You think working for a criminal makes you better than me? I think I'm not stealing from sick children to feed a gambling addiction, Camilla said quietly. So yes, Victoria, I'm better than you. Victoria grabbed her purse and stormed out, leaving her untouched coffee steaming on the table. Dante waited until she was gone, then picked up the tablet and deleted every file on Victoria Ashford. You're not actually going to expose her? Camilla asked. No need. She'll stay quiet now. He signaled for the check. The threat is enough. Victoria's smart enough to know I have the resources to follow through, and cowardly enough to back down when confronted. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Dante stood, helping her out of the booth. Victoria might stay quiet, but she's not the real problem. What do you mean? If Victoria recognized you in Zurich, other people might have too. People with better resources and worse intentions than society gossip. His hand found the small of her back as they headed toward the exit. We need to be more careful. No more using your real face for operations. If you're going undercover, we're using prosthetics, wigs, something that makes you completely unrecognizable. Camilla's stomach sank. You think someone dangerous saw me? I think we got lucky this time. But luck runs out. They stepped into the morning sunlight, Manhattan waking around them. Victoria was a warning shot. Next time, it might be someone we can't threaten into silence. They walked to the car in silence, both processing the implications. Camilla had been so focused on executing the operation successfully that she hadn't considered the long-term consequences of being seen. I should have worn a disguise, she said as they climbed into the Mercedes. You should have. But I should have insisted on it. Dante started the engine. This is my fault as much as yours. I was so impressed by how well you were handling everything that I forgot you're still new to this world. I'm not that new anymore. 3 weeks, Camilla. You've been doing this for 3 weeks. That's nothing. He pulled into traffic. Most people who join my organization spend 6 months training before they ever meet a client. You jumped straight into international art theft because I needed you and you were willing. Are you saying I'm not ready? I'm saying you're incredibly talented and frighteningly competent, but you're also taking risks that could get you killed. Dante's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Victoria was a wake-up call. We need to be smarter. They drove in silence for several blocks, Camilla processing everything that had just happened. Victoria's attempted blackmail, Dante's brutal efficiency in handling it, the realization that she'd been seen and recognized and could have been exposed. What happens now? She asked finally. Now we finish the Volkov delivery. You lay low for a week while Luna makes sure Victoria actually stays quiet. And then, Dante glanced at her. We discuss whether you want to continue doing this. knowing the risks are real and getting more dangerous. You're giving me an out? I'm giving you informed choice. When you took this job, you didn't know what it really meant. Now you do. He pulled up to her building. Take the weekend. Think about whether this is what you want. Because once we cross certain lines, Camilla, there's no going back to normal life. She should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt insulted. I'm not quitting. I'm not asking you to quit. I'm asking you to be certain. Dante's expression was serious in a way she'd rarely seen. Because the next operation will be more dangerous, and the one after that will be worse. This world doesn't get easier, Camilla. It just gets more complicated and more lethal. I understand. Do you? He reached over, tilting her chin up so she had to meet his eyes. Because 3 weeks ago, you were cleaning houses and waiting tables. Now you're committing international art theft and sleeping with your criminal boss. That's a hell of a transformation in a very short time. What's your point? My point is that I need you to be sure, not desperate, not running from your old life, not trying to prove something to Victoria Ashford. His thumb traced her jawline. I need you to choose this because you actually want it, not because you have nowhere else to go. Camilla pulled back from his touch. You think I'm only doing this because I'm desperate? I think you're brilliant and brave and capable of anything you set your mind to. I also think you've been in crisis mode since your father died, and you might be making decisions based on adrenaline rather than actual desire. That's incredibly condescending. That's me caring about you more than I should. Dante's expression was frustrated, which is exactly the kind of complication I was trying to avoid. The admission hung in the air between them. What are you saying? Camilla asked quietly. I'm saying I broke my own rules. I let you into this world too fast because I needed help, and you were willing. I slept with you because I couldn't stop myself even though I knew it was a terrible idea. And now I'm sitting here terrified that Victoria Ashford is just the first of many threats that are going to come for you because of me. Camilla stared at him, processing this uncharacteristic vulnerability from a man who'd built his entire life on control and distance. Dante, take the weekend. Think about it. Really think about it. He leaned over and opened her door. If you decide you want out, I'll help you disappear. New identity, clean records, enough money to start over anywhere in the world, no judgment, no consequences. And if I decide to stay? Then Monday morning, you come to the office and we figure out how to keep you alive long enough to become the kind of legend Luna is. His smile was tired. Either way, I'll respect your choice. Camilla climbed out of the car, her head spinning. She wanted to argue, to tell him she'd already made her choice, that she wasn't going anywhere. But maybe he was right. Maybe she did need to think about this rationally, instead of just reacting to the adrenaline and the danger and the intoxicating feeling of being powerful for the first time in her life. Monday, she said. I'll give you my answer Monday. Take care of yourself, Camilla. He drove away, leaving her standing on the sidewalk in the morning sun, surrounded by normal people heading to normal jobs, having no idea that she'd just spent the past hour being blackmailed by the woman who'd humiliated her and protected by the criminal she was falling for. 3 weeks ago, her life had been simple, exhausting and depressing, but simple. Now she didn't know what she wanted. Except that wasn't quite true. She knew exactly what she wanted. She just wasn't sure she should want it. Camilla spent Saturday in her apartment, deliberately not thinking about Dante or Victoria or the choice she needed to make. Instead, she cleaned, organized her closet, did laundry. Normal, domestic activities that reminded her of who she used to be before Dante Moretti offered her a job in an elevator. Her phone rang at noon, her old boss from the diner. Camilla? Hi, it's Jerry. Listen, I know you quit, but we're really short-staffed this weekend. Any chance you could pick up a few shifts? The request was so normal, so mundane, that it took her a moment to process. I, I'm not coming back, Jerry. I'm sorry. I figured, but I had to try. He sounded tired. You were one of my best waitresses. Good luck with whatever you're doing now. He hung up, and Camilla stared at her phone. 3 weeks ago, she would have said yes. Would have rearranged her entire weekend to accommodate his staffing shortage because she needed every dollar and couldn't afford to burn bridges. Now she had more money in her bank account than she'd earned in 3 years of brutal work. Had an apartment in Tribeca that most people only dreamed of. Had access to a world of power and danger that made waiting tables seem impossibly quaint. But was that who she wanted to be? Sunday morning, Luna showed up at her door with coffee and bagels. I'm not supposed to be here, she said, pushing past Camilla into the apartment. Dante specifically said to give you space. But fuck that. I need to make sure you're not doing something stupid. Like what? Like deciding to quit because Victoria Ashford scared you. Luna set down the food and coffee on the kitchen counter. So, talk to me. What's going through your head? Camilla accepted coffee gratefully. Dante thinks I'm making decisions based on crisis mode instead of actual desire. Dante's an idiot who's falling for you and doesn't know how to handle it. Luna bit into a bagel. But he's also not entirely wrong. You went from zero to international art theft in 3 weeks. That's insane. I know it's insane. Okay, good. You're not delusional. Luna studied her. Now tell me why you really took this job. I needed money. Bullshit. You needed money 3 years ago and didn't turn to crime. Try again. Camilla set down her coffee, trying to articulate something she'd barely admitted to herself. I needed to matter, she said finally. I needed to be seen. To have power over my own life instead of just surviving everyone else's choices. There it is. Luna nodded. The real reason. Not money. Not revenge. You wanted agency. Is that so wrong? Wrong? Hell no. It's the only good reason to do this work. Luna leaned against the counter. But here's the thing. You can have agency without committing felonies. You could go back to school, get a legit job in art consulting, build a normal life with normal risks. I don't want normal. Then stop acting like you're conflicted. Luna's voice went sharp. You're sitting here pretending to debate whether you want this life, but you've already decided. You loved Zurich. I can see it on your face when you talk about the operation. You love the danger and the problem solving and the feeling of being smarter than everyone in the room. Camilla opened her mouth to deny it, then stopped. Luna was right. She had loved it. The fear, yes, but also the exhilaration. The rush of improvising when Isabel Feller had almost discovered the heist. The satisfaction of convincing Dr. Strauss to authenticate a stolen artifact. The pride in Dante's eyes when she'd pulled off the impossible. Dante's worried I'm going to get killed, Camilla said quietly. Dante's worried he's going to get you killed, which is different. Luna finished her bagel. He cares about you. Like, actually cares. Not just boss employee caring. And that terrifies him because caring about people in this world is how you get leverage used against you. He told me about his last assistant, the one who betrayed him. Yeah, Sophie, that fucked him up pretty badly. Luna's expression went serious. But you're not Sophie. She took this job because she was greedy and thought she was smarter than everyone. You took it because you were desperate and turned out to actually be smarter than everyone. I'm not. Yes, you are. In 3 weeks, you've reorganized Dante's chaos, executed a flawless Swiss operation, and handled Victoria Ashford without breaking, Luna said. Most people take 6 months to get to your level. You did it in 3 weeks because you're a natural. The words should have felt like flattery. Instead, they felt like truth. What if Dante's right? What if I'm just running from my old life instead of choosing this one? Then you'd be making terrible decisions. But you're not. Luna grabbed her coffee. You want to know how I know? Because you keep asking questions about risk and consequence instead of just chasing adrenaline. You're thinking 3 steps ahead. That's not crisis mode. That's strategic planning. Camilla was quiet for a long moment, processing. Can I ask you something? She said finally. Do you ever regret this? Working for Dante? Living in this world? Luna considered the question seriously. Sometimes. When operations go wrong and people get hurt. When I see the FBI closing in and know we're one mistake away from prison. When I think about how I could have been a normal hacker doing normal security work instead of this. But those moments pass. Because most of the time, I love what I do. I love being the best at something that matters. I love the team we've built. I love that Dante treats us like family instead of employees. Luna met her eyes. And I love that we take from people who deserve to be robbed and give to people who need help. We're not Robin Hood. No, but we're not monsters either. Dante has rules. We don't hurt innocents. We don't deal in anything that exploits kids. We keep our word and we protect our own. Luna shrugged. It's not perfect morality, but it's more than most criminals can say. Camilla thought about Volkov, about the casually brutal way he'd tested her, about the Swiss collector whose Fabergé egg they'd stolen, about Victoria's embezzlement from sick children. What if I'm not good enough? What if I mess up and get people killed? Then we'll handle it. Together. Luna stood. But stop catastrophizing. You're not going to mess up because you're too careful. If anything, Dante needs to worry about you being too good at this job and deciding you don't need him anymore. That's not going to happen. Because you're falling for him too? Heat flooded Camilla's face. I'm not. Please. I've seen how you look at each other. It's disgustingly adorable. Luna headed for the door. For what it's worth, I think you're good for him. He's been less murdery since you started. That's a low bar. And yet he's clearing it with room to spare. Luna paused at the door. Whatever you decide Monday, make sure it's your decision. Not Dante's, not mine, not Victoria's. Yours. Because you're the one who has to live with the consequences. She left, and Camilla was alone with her thoughts and her coffee, and the realization that she'd already made her choice. She'd made it in the elevator 3 weeks ago, when she'd shaken Dante's hand. She'd made it in Zurich when she'd improvised her way out of disaster. She'd made it last night when Victoria had tried to blackmail her, and she'd felt nothing but cold satisfaction watching Dante destroy her. This was who she was now. For better or worse. The question was whether she was brave enough to admit it. Monday morning, Camilla arrived at the office at 8:45 a.m., wearing one of her new suits and carrying the confidence of someone who'd made a decision. Dante was in his office, reviewing documents. He looked up when she entered, his expression carefully neutral. You're early. I'm ready to work. Camilla set her bag on his desk. What's on the schedule today? Camilla. I'm staying. She met his eyes directly. I've thought about it all weekend. About the risks, the moral compromise, the danger. And I'm staying because this is what I want. Not because I'm desperate. Not because I'm running from my old life. Because I'm good at this. And I enjoy it and I choose it. Dante studied her for a long moment. You're certain? Completely. Even knowing it will get more dangerous? Especially knowing that? Camilla came around the desk, standing close enough to see the relief in his eyes. I'm not Sophie. I'm not going to betray you or break under pressure or decide I want a normal life. This is my life now, and I want you to stop protecting me from it. I can't promise that. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to trust that I can handle what comes next. She reached up, cupping his face the way he'd done to her so many times. I know what I'm doing, Dante. I know what I'm choosing. And I'm choosing you. This. All of it. He kissed her then, hard and desperate and relieved. When they broke apart, both breathing fast. His forehead rested against hers. "You're going to be the death of me," he murmured. "Probably, but not today." She smiled. "Today, we have work to do. Volkov's expecting his egg, right? Tomorrow night. Delivery at his estate in Connecticut." Dante pulled back reluctantly. "Which means we need to prep the authentication documents, coordinate with Marco on transportation, and—" "Already done." Camilla moved to her own desk in his office, a space Luna had set up over the weekend at Dante's request. "I spent Sunday reviewing the operation files. I have a complete timeline, backup plans for 3 different scenarios, and a communication protocol that keeps us untraceable, even if Volkov tries to record the exchange." Dante stared at her. "You worked all weekend?" "I worked Saturday afternoon and Sunday evening. The rest of the time I was thinking about whether I wanted this life." She pulled up the documents on her computer. "And once I decided I did, I started making sure I'd be good at it." "You're already good at it." "I'm going to be better." Camilla met his eyes with perfect confidence. "Because I'm not interested in being just another employee, Dante. I'm going to be the best person you've ever worked with. And then, I'm going to help you build this into something even more powerful than it already is." The smile that crossed his face was proud and possessive, and absolutely devastating. "That's my girl." Volkov's Connecticut estate made Friedrich Fuller's place look modest. 20 acres of grounds, a mansion that belonged in a Gothic novel, and security that Marco had been analyzing for a week. The plan was simple: arrive at 8 p.m., deliver the authenticated egg, collect the final payment, and leave before anything could go wrong. Of course, nothing in Dante's world was ever that simple. "Volkov's paranoid," Marco explained as they drove through Connecticut countryside in one of 3 identical black Mercedes. "He'll have the egg examined by his own expert before he accepts delivery. Standard procedure for high-value acquisitions." "We expected that," Camilla said from the back seat. "Dr. Strauss's authentication should hold up to any scrutiny." Should being the operative word. Dante sat beside her, the egg case on his lap. If Volkov's expert finds anything wrong, anything at all, this goes from a business transaction to a potential hostage situation. Comforting. "I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to keep you alive." His hand found hers in the dark interior. "When we get there, you stay close to me. Don't engage with Volkov unless he addresses you directly. Don't show fear, don't show confidence. Just be present and unremarkable." "Like furniture," Camilla muttered, remembering Luna's advice. "Exactly like furniture." They arrived at exactly 8 p.m. Guards met them at the gate, checking IDs that were almost certainly fake, but professionally produced. Another set of guards waited at the front door, wanding them for weapons and electronics. Camilla had left her phone in the car per Marco's instructions. She felt naked without it, but also oddly free. Inside, Volkov waited in what he probably called a study, but looked more like a medieval throne room. Dark wood, leather furniture, and enough weapons mounted on the walls to stock a small armory. "Moretti." Volkov stood, not offering to shake hands. "You're punctual. I appreciate this." "I aim to please." Dante set the egg case on a large oak table. As promised, the Danish palace's egg, authenticated by Dr. Helena Strauss, complete with provenance documentation. Volkov gestured to a thin man in his 60s who'd been standing in the corner. "My expert, Dr. Anton Petrov. He will verify." For the next 45 minutes, Camilla watched Dr. Petrov examine the egg with the same meticulous care Dr. Strauss had shown. He tested the enamel, measured the dimensions, compared the craftsmanship to historical photographs. The whole time, Volkov watched Dante with cold, calculating eyes, and Dante watched back with the same predatory patience. Finally, Dr. Petrov straightened. "It's authentic. Late 19th century. Fabergé workshop. Consistent with the Danish palace's egg specifications." Relief flooded through Camilla, but she kept her expression neutral. Excellent. Volkov smiled, and it still didn't reach his eyes. Then we have a deal. The remaining balance will be transferred to the account you specified within the hour. Appreciated. Dante didn't move to retrieve the egg case. There's a small additional matter we should discuss. Camilla's blood went cold. They hadn't discussed any additional matters. Oh? Volkov's expression went dangerous. Nothing that affects our transaction, Dante said smoothly. But I wanted to inform you personally that there was a witness at Fuller's party. A woman who recognized my assistant and attempted to use that information as leverage. He was talking about Victoria. Why was he talking about Victoria? This witness, Volkov said slowly. Was she handled? She was. But it occurred to me that others might have noticed us as well. I wanted you to be aware that the operation, while successful, may have attracted more attention than intended. Volkov was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. I appreciate the honesty. Not all my contractors would admit to such complications. I prefer transparency in my dealings. Dante finally picked up the empty egg case. It builds trust. Indeed. Volkov walked them to the door personally, which felt like either a great honor or a terrible threat. You've done excellent work, Moretti. I may have additional acquisitions in the future. I look forward to it. They made it to the car, down the driveway, and through the gates before Camilla finally spoke. Why did you tell him about Victoria? Because if he finds out later through his own intelligence networks, he'll think I was hiding it. Better to frame it as a complication I handled than a secret I kept. Dante leaned back in his seat, finally relaxing. Trust through transparency. It's counterintuitive, but it works. You used me as proof of your honesty. I used an unavoidable situation to strengthen our relationship with a valuable client. His hand found hers again. And it worked. Did you see how Volkov relaxed when I admitted the complication? He respects honesty more than he respects perfection. Marco pulled onto the highway, putting distance between them and Volkov's estate. That was brilliant, he said from the driver's seat. Risky, but brilliant. Everything we do is risky. Dante pulled out his phone, checking the wire transfer that had just hit their account. But some risks pay better than others. Camilla watched the Connecticut countryside pass outside the window, processing what had just happened. Dante had taken a potential disaster, Victoria recognizing her, and turned it into a relationship-building moment with one of their most dangerous clients. That wasn't just smart. It was masterful. You're smiling, Dante observed. I'm learning. Good. He squeezed her hand. Because we have 6 more operations scheduled for the next 2 months, and they're all more complicated than Zurich. I'll be ready. I know you will. They drove back to Manhattan in comfortable silence, Camilla's mind already spinning through logistics and contingencies for whatever came next. 3 weeks ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was essential. And she was just getting started. The charity gala was being held at the Grandeur Hotel. Camilla stood in the lobby, wearing a dress that cost more than her father's funeral, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. 6 months. That's how long it had taken to transform completely. She'd executed 12 more operations for Dante. Each one more complex, more dangerous, more lucrative. She'd learned to fight from Marco, to hack from Luna, to disappear from Alex. She'd become fluent in 3 different identities, expert in 6 different types of authentication, and feared by people who made their living being fearsome. And tonight, she was returning to the scene of her greatest humiliation as someone completely different. You don't have to do this, Dante said beside her. He wore a tuxedo that made him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine, and his hand was warm on the small of her back. We can leave right now. I want to be here. Camilla adjusted the diamond necklace, real this time, a gift from Dante after the Volkov delivery, and smiled. Besides, we're clients tonight, not crashers. She'd bought a table at the gala using money from her legitimate consulting firm. Yes, legitimate. Dante had helped her establish it 3 months ago, complete with real clients who paid real money for her expertise in art acquisition. Turned out that being able to authenticate rare pieces and track down impossible acquisitions made her incredibly valuable in the legal art world, too. If you're sure, Dante said. I'm sure. They walked into the ballroom together, and Camilla felt every eye turn toward them. Not because she was being humiliated this time, because Dante Moretti didn't attend public events, and his appearance with a beautiful woman on his arm was news. Victoria stood near the bar, talking to Marcus. She saw Camilla and went pale. Camilla smiled and waved. The rest of the evening was a masterclass in subtle revenge. Camilla mingled with art collectors who'd become her clients, discussed acquisitions with museum directors who sought her expertise, laughed with Manhattan's elite who had no idea that the woman they were courting also facilitated international art theft on the side. And through it all, Victoria watched with mounting horror as Camilla proved that she hadn't just survived being thrown out. She'd thrived. Around midnight, Victoria finally approached her in the bathroom. How? She demanded. How did you do this? I worked hard. I made smart choices. I stopped letting people like you make me feel small. Camilla reapplied her lipstick calmly. And I found someone who saw my potential instead of just my desperation. Dante Moretti is a criminal. Maybe. But he's honest about what he is. Which is more than I can say for you. Camilla dropped the lipstick in her clutch. How's the embezzling going, by the way? Still funding your poker addiction with charity money? Victoria's face went white. You can't prove anything. I can prove everything, but I won't. Because unlike you, Victoria, I'm not interested in destroying people just to watch them suffer. Camilla moved toward the door, then paused. I'm content letting you destroy yourself. Give it time. She left Victoria in the bathroom and returned to the gala, where Dante was waiting. How did it feel? He asked. Exactly as satisfying as I hoped. Camilla took his offered arm. Can we leave now? Absolutely. They walked out of the Grandeur Hotel together, past the spot where Victoria had humiliated her 6 months ago, past the elevator where everything had changed. Thank you, Camilla said, as they climbed into the waiting car. For what? For following me that night. For offering me the job. For seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself. Dante pulled her close, kissing her temple. You were always going to be extraordinary, Camilla. Just gave you an opportunity to prove it. So what happens now? Now, we go home. We sleep. And tomorrow, we start planning our next impossible operation. He smiled. What do you say? Camilla thought about her old life. The 3 jobs. The debt. The invisible desperation. Then she thought about who she was now. Powerful. Dangerous. Essential. Seen. I say let's make it legendary. Dante's laugh was warm and genuine. That's my girl. They drove through Manhattan, 2 criminals in love, heading home to plan the next beautiful crime. And somewhere behind them, in the Grandeur Hotel ballroom, Victoria Ashford realized she'd made a terrible mistake 6 months ago. She'd thrown out Camilla Reyes like she meant nothing, but the Mafia boss had stood up and followed her. And now, Camilla Reyes meant everything. The gallery opening was in Soho, showcasing Russian imperial artifacts that Camilla had personally acquired and authenticated. All legally, of course. The illegal acquisitions happened on the other side of her business, the side that only Dante and his team knew about. She'd become exactly what she'd wanted. Powerful, respected, and impossible to ignore. Luna raised a glass of champagne. To Camilla, who went from cleaning houses to owning the art world in less than 2 years. To Camilla, Marco echoed. Alex just nodded, which was their version of a speech. Dante stood beside her, his arm around her waist, and whispered in her ear. Proud of you. We did this together. We did. but you're the one who had the courage to choose it. He kissed her cheek. Question. Are you happy? Camilla looked around the gallery. At her team, who'd become her family. At the art she'd helped bring into the world, legally and otherwise. At the life she'd built from absolute nothing. I'm happy, she said honestly. Are you? With you? Always. They stood together, surrounded by beauty and danger and possibility, two people who'd found each other in impossible circumstances and built something that shouldn't work but did. Outside, Manhattan glittered with the same indifferent beauty it always had. But inside this gallery, inside this life, Camilla Reyes finally mattered. And that, she decided,